Hello and welcome to the SKYCast, Fantasy Football Scout's Sky Fantasy Football version of the regular Scoutcast. Mega Game Week 46 is still going on and doesn't finish until Thursday. In fact, we are recording as the Spurs-West Ham match is going on, currently 0-0. Then Game Week 47 starts up on Saturday. And we now have some more information about the game weeks after that. My name is Joe, and today I'm joined by Luke to look at our teams and try and sort out the best use of transfers and captains for game week 47. Welcome, Luke. How are you?
I'm good. I'm trying to keep one eye on the Spurs game because free hit in FPL, so I've got Son and Aurier in that. Ooh. And in terms of Sky, I've got Aurier captain tonight, which is one of the most fun things you can do, I think, in fantasy football. Will he get a red card? Will he get an own goal? Will he get a hat-trick? You just don't know.
No, I've got a vested interest too. I have Aguero, or had Aguero rather, in my Sky team, and I used one of my precious transfers, transfer him out, get Son in and captain him. And it gets worse. So they're currently 0-0 at the moment, so I'm hoping for a good score there. Won't do my FPL side very good, but hoping for a good Sky one. But if I hadn't have got him in, and I hadn't have bothered with that transfer, I would have captained Sionju, who got a nice 10 points earlier. So that would have been So that would have been a 20-point haul for my captain.
But I think there's a little bit of a lesson there, isn't it? The way football's going at the moment, captaining these centre-backs looks a pretty solid strategy.
Yeah, very happy to have Sionju, and well, I'm sure we'll talk about that later. We're looking to target certain players because we really want good. We really want good players. I've got 4 transfers left, so I can't be messing around. Let's have a look at your team. So you've got 2 teams, and last time we spoke, your 2 teams were sort of converging, but sort of rank wise, is one a bit better than the other?
I think now they're fairly close. I think they would have been 300 of each other, basically, because my B team's had a stormer on captains. Okay. Hasn't done much else, but captain wise has been very, very good.
So is your B team the one with Ings in?
The B team is the one with Ings in,
Brilliant.
correct.
So that's what I've got on the screen.
Lovely. Basically, I went from De Bruyne the first week, which was obviously fantastic as captain. I then went to Ings, I believe it was, over Fernandes. So I think there was only 2 points difference between them in the end. So that wasn't too bad. I then went for Jimenez, I think it was, and then he obviously returned as well. And then the Man City lineup came out, and it was pretty much dreadful for all of us, I would have thought, or most of us. But luckily, I had Edison in my team, so captained him. He obviously got a clean sheet. Obviously, you prefer a bit of the attacking play when they win 5-0, but I haven't got the luxury of making those moves. So he obviously got me the clean sheet. And then tonight's Aurier, so I'm hoping he can be the 5th one who just tops it off. But it's been okay captain-wise. Player-wise, not so good. The likes of Jota, Grealish, not doing particularly much. And the rest of the boys, chipping in okay, I suppose. Not too bad. I mean, Sarr was quite unlucky as well, I thought.
And just for the benefit of those on listening to the podcast version, we've got Edison there, Van Dijk, Aurier, who we mentioned you have captained, Alexander-Arnold, De Bruyne, who you've been enjoying his captain points, I presume, Jota, Grealish, Sarr, Fernandes from Manchester United, that is, Ings, who you've also been enjoying owning, and Jimenez, who doesn't enjoy owning Jimenez? He's just so reliable. So pretty good game week so far. It's still carrying on. Fingers crossed for Aurier for you. And this is your other team here. So for benefit of those listening on the podcast version, you've got Edison, Gomez, and Van Dijk, Sionju. So well done getting points for him tonight. De Bruyne's there, Barnes, Grealish, Sarr, Fernandes, Vardy. Very disappointing tonight from Vardy, and Salah. So this team was Vardy your captain tonight then?
Yes, Vardy was my captain. It's one of those ones where I kind of thought Soyuncu was probably the play, but if you've got Vardy, you just feel like you have to captain him, right? Because he's there, he's on penalties, he's obviously on paper a pretty easy game as far as most of them are concerned, and also not a lot of people will have him. So at the end of the day, if you've got Soyuncu, you're picking up at least half of his points if other people captain him, right? So I thought, it's probably the play, and I think most people will have done that. I mean, he could have potentially had a penalty at the end, I think, right? I didn't actually see it, but I heard there was a chance that Leicester may have picked up a penalty. So maybe a tad unlucky there as well. But Yeah, very happy with Soyuncu. My main concern here really is having watched Leicester for these 2 games and having 3 of them in my team is a slight concern because they really don't look at it, to be honest.
No, I have Harvey Barnes as well and Soyuncu, and yeah, I kind of wish I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, Barnes obviously unfortunate to pick up the injury the other day, was probably the reason he didn't start today. I'm not too worried about him because it's a midfield spot and that price. There's not many alternatives, I think, that will... I mean, don't get me wrong, if I had 15 or 20 transfers, I'd be looking to get him straight out. But I don't think it's a transfer that has that high a ceiling around that price bracket. Whereas the likes of Vardy out to another striker could potentially net me a lot more points. Yeah. So that's the kind of thing I'll be looking at. Soyuncu, I'm happy just to leave all season. It's been the play to keep him all season anyway, I think. So we won't be messing around with that one.
Yeah, so that's a theme that we'll address a bit later. Is we've got precious transfers, how best to use them, and obviously for yourself. You've got this team here. You've got what, 3 transfers left?
I've got 4 in both of them, so I'm having to be very select. Yeah, I mean, say if I had more, Barnes out to the likes of Traore and even Mason Mount, and you could even say Foden might be a cheeky look now for the end of the season if you really wanted to go a bit differential. But the ceiling on those guys, I don't think is quite as high as a striker, as I've already mentioned. So it's a debate.
It looks in good shape though, because there's a broad spread of players there, and so far the bulk of especially in your other team with Aurier, the bulk of those captain days are covered. We have had a few more captaincy days come in, so we'll talk about that a bit later as well. So we know 48 and 49 in terms of captaincy, but this is that's why I got Son in. Put it this way: if he blanks tonight, I got him in for the Everton single game day with against Everton, but down the line. Here's my team, so mixed bag really. So here's my main team. This is the one that I'm just outside the top 500 now with this one, and I used a couple of transfers to get Grealish in for Pereiro. That went well. I got a Aubameyang in for Mane. Well, that went well as well. But nevertheless, currently, thanks to Soyuncu, I'm on 116 points for this lot. So I'm quite happy. I don't know how it's doing all right, but I guess it was Captain Van Dijk, Captain Fernandes, and that's really helped out. And Jimenez points were great. And a cheeky assist for Aguero just before he limps away from our team's thoughts for the season. I've got, in terms of the captaincy, it looks like it's Barnes there, but Aguero I was moved out for Son, so this team actually has Son instead of Aguero. So in goal, Henderson. I'm quite happy to play stick goalie at the moment. Van Dijk, Alexander-Arnold, Soyuncu, Harvey Barnes, Grealish, Sarr. So a lot of these sort of mid-price midfielders. Fernandes, Aguero, who is now Son, and Aubameyang and Jimenez. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I think. So I'm going for those transfers. I've got 4 transfers left now, and the transfers I make are those types of ones. So Son in for an permanently injured Aguero. So easy move for me, and hope for the best. It may not work, it may work. So, but these are the moves I'm going to make. I noticed he was only 2.3% owned in Sky, 2.8% owned.
Oh, who's that? Son,
yeah.
Yeah, that's incredibly low, isn't it?
And I thought, well, hey, how has that happened? So I'll captain him and just hope for the best. I'm looking at Aubameyang. You can see I'm looking at captaining Aubameyang against Southampton. I'm very keen on captaining him against Norwich as well. And then he's on his way out. So that'll probably be to KDB, because I'll have no Man City, and then Man City's fixtures get really good after then. Coincidentally, when Aubameyang's get bad. So that's quite handy for me. I think that's a fairly sensible move. I might make that move to Salah or Mane, but I think KDB looks like a must for me. He's a rank shield for this team, and I might do without Salah or Mane. Let's be on the questions a bit later, because Van Dijk is the one to captain, and Alexander-Arnold's there to get points as well. I'm not sure I really need Salah Mane. I'm very happy with Fernandes, obviously, because he's brilliant. My second team is Pope in goal, brilliant, -2 from him. Thanks a lot, Nick. Van Dijk, Alexander-Arnold, Bulldog, De Bruyne, this team's got 76 points going into tonight, so not doing as well, but at least I got De Bruyne there. Barnes, Grealish, Mount is my Chelsea differential. Fernandes, and then up front I've now got Son. I've gone for Son in this one because I've got 9 transfers remaining in this one, so it can be a bit more, I can splash the transfers a bit. And Jimenez, that one is about 4.5k now. So I'm looking to get that one into the top 1k if I can. This is a tall order, but with the amount of transfers I've got, I'm hopeful. Mane and Salah or Richarlison are possibles to bring in for this one. I've got to think a bit more differential with this one. So that's why I got Son in, definitely, for here. But let's look a bit more about Game Week 47 in terms of our captaincies. I can fit all this on one column of fixtures this time, so it's not like a mega game week like 46. We've got the fixtures there. Starts off with Villa against Wolves and finishes at 8:15 on Thursday. With Man City against Liverpool. So do you want to run through your captains for Game Week 47?
Yeah, I think 27, I think if you've got Jimenez at this point, is pretty much a no-brainer. Doherty could be a good pick as well, but I don't think he's particularly well owned in Sky, so that's another differential people might want to look at, because he's just been incredible. I don't really need to talk that guy up, do I? He's been fantastic for even before the lockdown. So Jimenez will be my captain there. In one of my teams, I don't have a Wolves player in the other one, so it will probably have to be Grealish. I just have to hope that Villa are going to try and do something about him not seeing the ball at all. I'm not overly hopeful at this point, but again, it's just one of those ones where I don't really want to use a swap there. The thing I did say with that team, that's the team that's got Vardy, so I am looking at which striker I'm going to bring in. So that could be Jimenez that I do in this one. I kind of like the look of about 3 around that price. Jimenez is certainly one. I think Gabriel Jesus is probably a reasonable option. The fixtures are terrible in the immediate, but I think given what we've seen so far from Man City, will that really matter is probably another question. And if he's up front for them for the rest of the season, I mean, it's Pep, right? He could end up just playing a false 9 or something. We just don't know. But that seems a reasonably high ceiling punt that I could go for. So that's another one that's in my thoughts as well for that spot. And the other one's probably Rashford. So out of those 3, I'm not sure which one I'll switch Vardy from at the moment. But anyway, I've been sidetracked already. Jimenez against Villa. I've actually got Sarr. So for Watford at home to Southampton, I've got Sarr in both teams. I've also got Ings in one team. So I've got my pick there, really. I think they're probably the 2 best options on that night. I think also if you haven't got any cover for this game, quite a few people won't. I was speaking to Phil McNulty, who's a really good Sky player, and he was basically saying he's looking to take out Jimenez after Saturday night to then get a captain in this game, which essentially gives you a 2 for 0 if you like, because obviously you're getting that one game doubled. And then later on, you sort of have Wolves at home to Arsenal, which you could argue is a good game, but maybe not. And then you obviously can go into Southampton versus Man City. Ings at home, you don't know what team Man City are going to be playing. So I can kind of see where he's going just to cover that game. I'm luckily I've got it, but it's an option to think about, I think. You can always bring him back in, of course, if you need to. The Palace-Burnley game, I think we discussed last week. I don't have anyone from either team, so I'll be completely missing that one. If I had an option, it would probably be on Van Arnold or someone like that. Brighton versus Man United is very simple. It's just going to be Fernandes. I don't see any reason to move off of him at the moment. So that will certainly be my captain in both teams there. And Wednesday, a little bit more tricky. One of my teams may have no coverage at all. So the team that's got no Leicester, my B team, doesn't have anyone. So I'm thinking at the moment to probably bring in either Mason Mount or Richarlison. Not quite worked out who it will be. So Richarlison at home to Leicester or Mason Mount away to West Ham. And the other team's got 3 Leicester, so I'll probably just stick it on a Leicester player and hope in that one right and keep the transfer. Obviously, Aubameyang is the player of choice there, I would suggest. And then Thursday is again obviously Man City, Liverpool, the big one, and the Sheffield United versus Spurs. Man City at home. I know it's I was going to say a title clash. It's not really though, is it? But a Man City player at home, just have to hope they'll go full strength just for pride more than anything. So that will likely be Kevin De Bruyne in that one, I would have thought.
Yeah, no, it's also I think that's the match where Liverpool could win it, because I don't think they can quite win it, the league against Palace, but pretty much pretty much there, obviously. It's just a matter of when. For me, I'm looking at Jimenez against Villa. Sarr, I'm so pleased I kept hold of Sarr because he's really handy for that match. Watford against Southampton. I'm going no captain for Palace, Burnley. I've got precious transfers. I'm certainly not going to use them there. My B team, I've got Nick Pope, so captaincy there. Fernandes, obviously, if Manchester United are playing, even though it's against Brighton, my team, I'm going to captain Fernandes. Aubameyang, yes, he's staying for this one. He's going to go after this match, but that's definitely the match to get shot of him after this. Arsenal against Norwich, it's too good. Got to keep him. And then the final day, Sheffield against Spurs, Sheffield United against Spurs, Man City against Liverpool. I'm going for Son. Sheffield United will have Henderson back, but they will probably still be without O'Connell. So yeah, their defence is the way they play relies on those reliable centre backs, overlapping centre backs. So without Fleck and O'Connell, they didn't look so good, and without O'Connell, they didn't look so good. Egan made a rare mistake. They're just form-wise. I think this could be a good match for Son. Hopefully,
you kind of imagine that Sheffield United playing such a very good system that takes a lot of teamwork, a lot of energy, a lot of stamina. You kind of think that it's not really the team to pick very early on, because that takes time to work out, right? To get all your fitness right, to get that cohesion back within the team. So I kind of see that as well. I think. I don't think they're by any means done. I give it another 2 or 3 weeks, they'll probably be completely fine again. But initially, I think at least. I mean, having said that, Spurs not exactly free scoring at the moment, and not tonight either. So it's gonna be a tricky one that night, I think. But at the end of the day, if you own Kevin De Bruyne, hopefully he can't hurt you too much that night, can he? So going Son captain seems good.
I mean, the real headline story of this game week is have a good spread of captains across a number of teams. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 single game week, 4 single match days. So you've definitely got to have that spread. You can't just load up fully with City or just Liverpool and hope for the best. You've got to start having your SARs in. And
I think that's definitely where you want to spend your swaps, is the captains, because we haven't really been given any 2 for. I mean, you saw me struggling to suggest a 2 for 2 for 0 back then. There isn't really any, because the games don't overlap. So you almost have to banish that from your mind at the moment and just look at those captain days.
Also, with fixtures coming thick and fast, will you get a 2 for 1? We saw Kevin De Bruyne arrested against Burnley, so you might end up with a 1 for 1. And with precious transfers left, it's just not worth the risk for me. So headline there, lots of single game days.
On the positive though, we do get a lot more lineups than we would normally, because there's a lot more games. So for Sky, although it's a risk any time, obviously you could at least know that your player is playing that night, and therefore take a punt looking on those lineups, can't you? So play the game in front of you is more the angle, I would say, than the strategy, especially if you've got a lot more swaps. If you've got a lot more, then go crazy any night, I would say.
But also with the captaincy as well. So for example, tonight, say I didn't get Son in, say I was down to like 1 transfer or something. I had the captain on Harvey Barnes. Saw the team sheet, no Harvey Barnes in the first 11. It would have moved to Sionju. That's what you can do with these single game days. So if you have so, for example, with Wolves, if you have the likes of Bolly or Doherty, or you have some of their other Traore even with Wolves, and you see for some unknown reason that Jimenez is not in the starting 11, you can make that swap quite easily. I just want to look at we're going to in a future video and podcast we'll look at game week 48 and 49 as we go through the game weeks, but just we can have a sneaky peek at game week 48. And the headline of this is there's only 1 single match day, and that's Spurs against Everton, and that's why I got Son in, mainly for this, and also quite handy for tonight, well, in theory. But yeah, just looking through this, we've got a whole bunch of matches on. I won't bore everyone by going through all of the different matches that are taking place, but just if you can go through if you've had to think about your captains at all for game week 48, just quickly.
Yeah, so Saturday, 4th of July, Man United are at home to Bournemouth.
Yeah.
All the evidence I've seen so far is that Bournemouth, I say all the evidence, there's only been 1 game, but I think that was telling enough, to be honest. So that's going to be Fernandes for me. Jimenez is another option at home to Arsenal, I would suggest. A very good one as well, probably. But Fernandes, I'm probably not going to think about that too much and just do that. He's getting bonus points for fun, isn't he? So you can always rely on that. I would have said in that game, even if he doesn't score or assist, you're probably likely to get some sort of bonus there, or even a man of the match. Sunday the 5th, we've also got Liverpool at home to Villa. I've still got some Liverpool players, so Van Dijk's a very, very. I mean, every single week we say, why haven't we captained Van Dijk? Yeah. Sorry, so he's still the standout for me there. Obviously, Man City play Southampton as well, so Kevin De Bruyne. The problem with that is we won't know the lineups on that day. Sunday the 5th of July, there's a 12 o'clock kickoff. They are the 7 o'clock kickoff. So if you're going to play with a Man City player, you're running that gauntlet, I'm afraid. So I'm not prepared to do that. No. Some people might be, but I'm not. And then on Monday night, one of my teams I'll have Aurier, so I'll probably just captain him and hope. I wouldn't expect much from him in that game. And the other team is, it's like I said before when I was naming those strikers who I'm going to go to. The other one I was considering is Calvert-Lewin, because he gives me this game day as well. So either Richarlison or Calvert-Lewin will probably be my captain in my other team for that day.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking at that. I'm looking at Fernandes, obviously, for those reasons you've given, against Bournemouth. Van Dijk as well. The handy thing of not having Salah or Mane. Van Dijk is my go-to Liverpool captain now. Son nestles in nicely for that Spurs-Everton game. And then I'm looking at Sarr, I think, for Watford against Norwich. Van Dijk again, when moving through these fast and furious fixtures against Brighton. I'm looking at that. So, but I might go for City. You mentioned City there. City are
we get the lineup on that day, don't we?
City at home to Newcastle. So we'll get that lineup. Also, that's handy for me because I'm looking probably to move Aubameyang on. So I've had Aubameyang against Leicester points, and then I'll be looking to move him on, possibly to KDB. So it's a perfect opportunity for me. I've just got to make sure I'm there. I'm not walking.
If the likes of Jesus has started every game to that point, and you see him in the lineup again, then that's got to be attempted, for example.
Definitely. And then moving to the final game week, Fernandes or Son. Spurs against Bournemouth. Manchester United against Villa. I mean, it's going to be Fernandes for that one. But Son is a nice backup. Hey, we've got more fixtures as well. We can look a little bit ahead. Gameweek 49. So looking at these fixtures, once again, there's not that many single game week days. I think we've got Manchester United against Southampton on the
13th.
That's the date. So for me, Liverpool again, home to Burnley is Van Dijk again, or KDB. He's a tempter against Brighton, but I think Van Dijk. Son or Jimenez for the next day. Wolves against Everton. And Spurs against Arsenal, tempting. Fernandes, as I mentioned, against Southampton. And then moving down that list, we've got Man City. Man City got great fixtures. So KDB against Bournemouth is the obvious one. Possibly Son for Spurs away to Newcastle. Newcastle at home and not a walkover. And we're not seeing, unless you're called Man City, we're not really seeing many walkovers so far. But have you had a chance to look at 49? You got any?
No, I've not really fed that far too. I mean, by then we'll have a lot more information. Maybe teams will have, started to work better in how they're approaching games. So many games 0-0 by half time at the moment, and sort of struggling for goals. So they're doing okay. I think these centre backs. So I think whenever you're given the option of who to pick at the moment, you probably should err towards. I mean, in Sky, it's been that way for a while. That you should probably be looking at defenders anyway, but even more so now. And I think as long as you've got, Van Dijk in your team, as long as you've got De Bruyne, as long as you've got Fernandes, and I'd argue maybe Jimenez as well, because Wolves games. I think those four. If you've got those four covered. Then I think you should be okay. The periphery, there's some moves to make, like Aubameyang's obviously very useful for various bits, etc. But I think as long as you got those four in your team, you should be able to cover the majority of things. And I think they're basically the key players now from now to the end of the season, at least on the evidence we've got so far.
I think so. I mean, the likes of, say, Harvey Barnes or Mason Mount, I've got Sionju. I'm not thinking of captaining him any days unless there's a particular single game week day and the only player I've got. It's just I'm just not good. I'll just keep them. I'll just hope for the best. I'll take 2 points one week. Hopefully they score next week.
Exactly.
We've had some questions. We've sort of addressed some of them, but Lee Williams asked, with 11 transfers left. Poor Lee, 11 transfers left. after planning, is it worth bringing in a player for the Palace-Burnley game? Neither team interest him. It's quite a tizzy. For me, it's an easy thing. I've only got 4 left, so no way. But he's got 11. Is it worth?
I mean, if he's happy with his team and he can navigate most weeks without using too many, then I'd say just go for that. I mean, for me, the standout would probably be Patrick Van Aanholt, I would say, the way Burnley looked at the moment, and Palace obviously quite sturdy defensively. You throw in a goal there or an assist or some bonus for Patrick Van Aanholt, and suddenly that's a massive haul. We have seen him, even in the few weeks leading up to lockdown, actually achieve that. So he's also pretty cheap. I think he's about 7.6 or something around there, I think he is. So I'd be tempted to do that, to be honest.
Yeah, I would as well. I was going to say Van Aanholt is probably the only player I would consider there. I'll be looking for a high-impact player. If you've got 11 transfers left, it's worth a punt there. And Van Aanholt, towards the end of the season, has got this habit of racking up some good scores.
And
he's nailed on. He's nailed on as well. Palace's squad is really thin. And the defence is really old.
I mean, the only other one I'd even slightly consider would probably be Jordan Ayew, because he actually gets bonus quite a lot for tackles and just getting stuck in. He can get man of the match for that as well. So obviously he's their main goal threat as well, really, isn't he? So he'd be the other option, but only for a 1 weeker. I wouldn't really want him in my team long term.
Alistair Milroy has asked us, if not keeping Dean Henderson for the rest of the season. So he's looking at that blank coming up because he can't play for his parent club, Manchester United. Can't play against his parent club, Manchester United. Which goalkeeper would you go with? So, perhaps if you're goalkeeperless as well. Any particular goalkeepers spring out?
I mean, there's potentially a differential in Martinez now, isn't there? Arsenal's fixtures are pretty good. I know their defence hasn't been particularly good, but every reason. I mean, when you watch the game, Leno makes a whole host of saves. So I would expect that it will be the same for Martinez as well. I think he's 6 million. I'm just going to check now, which is a little bit more than I'd want, but that's still fairly cheap for a goalkeeper. So I would be tempted to do that just on the basis it's different. Other than that, it's your usual names, I think, that make save points. The likes of Fabianski, I think it's a very, very good one. He's always been a good keeper in Sky. So I'd be highly tempted there.
West Ham's fixtures get a bit better as well.
That's it, isn't it? Their fixtures are just extremely good. Outside of that, you just want to look if you haven't got a captain day covered and a key keeper could do a job, then potentially. So Foster for Watford is another one. Pope for Burnley. Everyone knows the names now of these guys. Yeah, but all of those look good to me.
Yeah, I agree there. I mean, I've got Dean Henderson in one, just keeping him. I've got Nick Pope in the other, and that's fine. I mean, I just think they could get me some clean sheets and could get me some points there. Foster is another to consider.
Dubravka as well. Dubravka's done very well in Sky.
I think now-ish is Dubravka time, because Newcastle have a really great run against 3 of the worst attacks and defences at the moment. Leon has asked us, any thoughts to go big at the back? Looks like a high percentage of games will be cagey. Expect most sides to put players behind the ball and drop off rather than press high. He's been doing his homework due to fitness and temperatures as well. It is indeed. I mean, it's boiling at the moment. And what do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, we've already mentioned. I kind of like that, especially now. Big at the back's good in Sky generally anyway, and having those centre backs that are probably less likely to be subbed, rotated with these 5 subs, likely to rack up the passes, like you said, because of the temperature of the game. The pace of the game seems to be a little bit slower, so you're more likely to get bonus. So I do really like that. My only concern is if it takes you a while to get there, suddenly you may need to then revert it later if things suddenly pick up, which no one knows whether they will or not, right? We can't know that, unfortunately. So as often these things move very, very fast in fantasy, don't they? So right now it looks the great strategy. In 2 or 3 weeks, whether it will be or not, I don't know. So I guess it depends how fast you can move to that.
Keep yourself flexible. I mean, I've got 3 at the back in both my teams at the moment, I think. But I did have 4. I'm finding 3 quite flexible because it means I can sort of go to the back. And there are options at fullback as well, and the out of position players. Matt Ritchie is Doherty, Bolly. I mean, you've got the Wolves defence.
Justin as well, who played tonight, by the way.
Cheap.
He didn't look great defensively, but in terms of Sky, he's actually been pretty good. I actually noted down he scored 7 points in his last 3. He scored 7, 7, 8, involving 2 passing bonus and 1 tier 2 tackles as well. So it's not just the clean sheets, which, I mean, watching Leicester play at the moment, it looks like most of their games are going to be sort of tight, 0-1, 0-0, 1-0s, maybe stuff like that. So I think he's quite good as a pick potentially at the back, and I think he's I'm just checking now. Yeah, he's only 6 million. So if you need a budget guy to stick in, and obviously with Pereira out for the season, he could be an option. The only thing is Soyuncu's 6.2, so only 0.2 more. Probably safer for bonus and safer to play. So that's the only concern.
I was going to mention Wan-Bissaka as well. Manchester United fixtures are good. I like Wan-Bissaka in the Sky game. We know about his tackling in general. I think at one stage he was the best in Europe in his position. He's good for bonus. I think Manchester United do look good for clean sheets. Could be, and there doesn't seem to be a tremendous amount of rotation for Wan-Bissaka. He may miss the odd game, but I think you're going to get points in there, and you can always chance of an assist as well. Rangers, final question here: do we have to have Mane or Salah? So there's a fear of missing out with them, like for the last couple of years. But can we go without? I mean, I've already said it in Sky. If you've got Van Dijk, is the Salah Mane.
You only have to look at the top scoring player in the game, and it's Van Dijk. So you might be afraid that you might. I mean, Salah could easily hit a brace, man of the match, or whatever, and you might miss out on that one particular day. However, if you captain Van Dijk over Salah every single time, then overall you will be up. I mean, the points don't lie. That he has got more than him. So, I don't think you need them at all. They'd be nice to have. Don't get me wrong. Suddenly they could start winning every game 3 or 4-0, playing their full team. It gets a little bit unknown, that information at this point. I'd certainly take them if you gave me the opportunity, but I think Van Dijk is more than enough. And obviously, because of all these individual days, you just need to cover such a spread of teams that I'm finding myself with 3 Leicester players here and 3 Liverpool players, 6 players taken up of my 11 on 2 teams. Not ideal in one of my teams, so I need to address that. And Van Dijk, what more can you ask for, really?
Definitely.
He can get a goal any game as well.
And there's so much choice as well with Sky, of course. Those that new to Sky, most people like us, we playing it for a while, so we know this, that you can move a forward position to a midfield position. You can move formations around. You're only playing with that 11, so it's really handy. It's really handy having Salah or Mane, because it's handy to get rid of them, because there's so much flexibility in who you can replace them with. You can move them right across the board, or get an expensive defender in. And if for some reason you haven't got Van Dijk, get him in. Just get him in. We started this video with a picture of Salah, and we've ended with a question about getting Salah, and he's a happy chap in this picture, but it's Van Dijk is the one, really. But in the meantime, we're going to be back again before game week 48. We've had a sneak peek of that, so we'll better see if our captains have changed by then and whether we've had to use any precious transfers. But for now, Luke, thanks so much for joining me.
No problem, thanks, and good luck tonight. And Aurea, I believe in you, son. Come on.
And son.
and son, of course.
Goodbye all.
See ya.